I started out this project with a cowl in mind, but at the end of it, I realized that this is too long to be a cowl, but at the same time, it feels short for a scarf. So I guess we'll just go with a short infinity scarf. I'm Sophronia. We're going to be working on the 48 needle knitting machine today, and I wanted to make another Christmas project. This had red and in it and white, so I thought it would look Christmassy, but upon closer inspection, this is giving me Valentine's Day vibes. But either way, it's very pretty, and I'm going to show you how to make this. I wanted my seam to blend in and to, as much as possible, to be invisible. That's the seam right there where I'm running my thumbs along, and here's the other side of it. So I'll show you how to make this invisible-ish seam. About your project by using waste yarn that is in a contrasting color to your scarf. I'm using this blue since it's a completely different than the colors in the scarf. Then we're going to go to the first needle on the machine, put your yarn, your waste yarn, underneath that needle, crank your machine a little to secure that yarn. Then you're going to go behind the next needle, then in front of the next, and that's the pattern we're going to follow: behind, in front, and you're going to continue on this way until you find yourself back at the last needle, which is the white needle on my machine. Once you've gone behind that white needle with your yarn, go through your yarn feeder and then put your yarn through whichever tensioner works best. And then we're going to crank 5 rounds of the waste yarn. Once it's done, get the yarn for your scarf. Let's pretend like this is the yarn for the scarf. I actually forgot to record the beginning of me making this scarf. So you start on the first needle, put your yarn through your tensioner, or through the yarn feeder and through the tensioner, and then I hold on to the yarn just until it's secure, and then crank away. This is the yarn that I'm using for this short infinity scarf. It's Mainstays. You can get it at Walmart. It's 285 yards, and it's size 4 yarn. It's a thin, very thin 4. It's 100% acrylic. Just remove the yarn from the tension holder. Just remove it, hold it in your hand just until the yarn clears the machine, and then you can go back to the tension and just go back to your rounds. I used the entire round of this variegated yarn, or the entire skein of this yarn, except for I just left, you just want to leave a bit at the end. You just need enough so that you can join the scarf and actually make it an infinity scarf. Once you get almost to the end of your variegated yarn, go ahead and cut it and add your waste yarn again, and you just need 5 more rounds of the waste yarn. You can loosely tie the waste yarn and the scarf yarn together. I just tied it one time because you will remove that shortly when you're finishing the edges. I don't have footage of me removing the scarf from this machine, but let's just simulate it here. What we're going to do is pretend like this is the last needle, okay? This is the last needle, and down inside of the machine, your scarf is there, right? Their scarf is there. And then here's our 5 rows of waste yarn. and except that now our waste yarn has magically turned red. All right, so cut your waste yarn, put it to the side of that last needle, and then you're gonna turn your machine 2 complete rotations. Now the second time around, you'll notice that the work starts to remove itself from the machine. It's a 2-step process to finish this scarf. First, you're going to finish off the edges, and then you're going to sew the edges together. So let's begin by looking at this one edge. What you want to do is match up your stitches, and then you want to find the perpendicular stitch that's at the edge. See, I'm stuck at my size I crochet hook. You can do I or lower, it doesn't have to be the size, but you stick it under that needle, under that loop that is perpendicular to the top and bottom edges. See, here's the top outermost stitches, and here are the bottom outermost stitches. And so you start with the perpendicular stitch, and then put your crochet hook underneath the top closest stitch and pull that through. And then you repeat that for the bottom closest stitch. You want to hook your hook onto that loop and then pull that bottom loop through. And so you're left with just one loop on your hook. And then you go back to the top and you're going to repeat this pattern. And I do strongly suggest taking your time. This actually takes a bit of time, but if you take your time, you're less likely to drop stitches at the end. Now here, once you get to the end, you want to just finish up with your last couple of stitches. I think that's the last bottom stitch. And then go ahead and untie where you had loosely tied those 2 yarn ends together. And then it looks like maybe that's the last. Actually, I thought it was the last top stitch, but I was actually just pulling the yarn end through the last loop. And that's what you do. You do want to pull your yarn end, your yarn tail, you do want to pull that through your last loop, like so. And then this is what your edge looks like. And that's one side finished, and then you just want to repeat that for the other edge. Next, hide your yarn tail hide it on the inside of your work. Look at this. With all my talk of missing stitches, I did miss one. So I'm just going to make that work out. Excuse me. Just going to put my needle through that missed stitch, and then I'm going to go ahead and hide the tail. It does leave my ends looking a little wonky, but that's okay. By the time it's all said and done, that will be better. Now it's time to connect both ends of the scarf using that bit of leftover yarn from your project. Excuse me. See these? That's where I sewed the ends of the scarf together. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on the stitches above, right above on that side, and we're going to work on the stitches right below on the other edge. So what you're going to do is you're going to go under that first stitch. So you're going under 1, 2, so you're going under both of those loops. And then at the top, don't worry about that, that'll be fixed. At the top, you're going to go under the first stitch right above where you stitch the edging together. So you're going under 1, okay, I'll get it. You're going under 1, 2, I guess they're like loops, but really it's just 2 parts of a stitch. So you're going through both of those and then pull your yarn through and leave a bit of a tail because you will need to finish off with that, or you will need to hide that tail later.